Hello there, you're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV and here are the latest headlines. Vice President to leave on 5-day tour of Morocco and Tunisia today, thrust on improving economic ties with African nations. BJP announces list of 12 nominees for Rajya Sabha elections. Row over Congress nomination in Uttarakhand. LIPDF announces own nominee. Congress MP Vijay Darda meets Nitin Gadkari after failing to be nominated from Maharashtra. Five arrested in connection with assault on African nationals in Delhi on Thursday. Hunt on for 3 more. Home Minister directs Delhi police to take strict action against assaulters. African envoy says have faith in government. Rains bring down temperatures in national capital. 6 reported killed in cloudburst in Uttarakhand. Several homes also reported damaged. And at least 700 migrants feared dead from shipwrecks in Mediterranean Sea in the past week. Bigger disaster averted with more than 13,000 migrants rescued. For our top focus, Vice President Hamid Ansari will embark on a 5-day tour to Morocco and Tunisia to improve economic ties with the African countries. Now, both the countries are keen to build strategic relationship with India. The Vice President is travelling with the parliamentary delegation. Vice President Mohammed Hamid Ansari will leave for Morocco at the invitation of Abdelillah Ben Kirain, the Moroccan Prime Minister and head of government of Morocco. He will arrive today in the Moroccan capital, Rabat. During the course of his visit, the Vice President will hold discussions with King Mohammed VI and Prime Minister Ben Kirain. The Vice President and the Moroccan Prime Minister will also jointly launch the India-Morocco Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Rabat. Members of the Indian diaspora will interact with the Vice President during the event.
Among the issues that we'll be discussing besides regional issues and how to strengthen our outreach to Africa generally, also Morocco wants to posit itself as a gateway to the Francophone Africa. So that is one of the key issues why Vice President decided to go there.
In the second leg of his visit, Vice President Hamid Ansari will reach Tunis on 2nd of June at the invitation of Tunisian Prime Minister Habib Essed. He will hold discussions with the Tunisian President and Prime Minister Essed on a wide range of issues of shared common interest. Vice President Ansari will also deliver a keynote address to Tunisian diplomatic corporations, leading scholars and think tanks at the Tunisian Institute for Strategic Studies.
Tunisia is also looking at India's expertise in gas and oil field sector. We have formed a joint venture in 2007. Hopefully, and they have been sort of pressing us to get the Minister for Petroleum and Gas there, and we should perhaps do a follow-up sometime.
The visit comes after the successful high-level India-Africa summit in Delhi last year. During his visit to both the countries, the Vice President will be accompanied by Union Minister of State for Chemicals and Fertilizers, Hansraj Gangaram Ahir, and 4 members of Parliament. This is Vishal Jain and Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV. News from the national capital, and 5 people have been arrested in connection with the alleged involvement in the attacks on African nationals in Delhi. At least 6 African nationals were injured when they were assaulted in South Delhi's Mehroli. At the moment, hunt is on for 3 more people believed to be involved in the recent attacks. Now, the arrests came with Home Minister Rajnath Singh directing the police to take strict action against the attackers and set up patrolling in areas where the community lives. Earlier, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj had spoken to Home Minister as well as the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Najib Jung, over the incident, asking them to ensure security of the African nations. She also said that a sensitization campaign will also be carried out in the areas where African nationals reside. Now, the incidents came close to the heels of a killing of a Congolese national that had triggered angry reaction by all the African countries. Now, police attributed 2 of Thursday's incidents to a dispute over African nationals playing loud music and other to a scuffle over public drinking.
The bashes, windscreen, both the front and the back, and he was coming with the family. the child is inside the car and his wife is inside the car, and they tried to stab him from every point, but he was able to defend himself. You know, he was out on the chest and on his arms, and immediately we called the police.
देखिए अभी तक इन सारी जितनी भी हमारी 4 एफआईआर दर्ज हुआ है उसमें अलग अलग एफआईआर में 4 लोग हमने अरेस्ट किया है, एक को अप्रीहेंड किया है, जेसीएल हैं, और अभी और इसमें अरेस्ट होना बाकी है। दूसरी बात यह है कि ये किसी भी तरह का कोई रेशियल अटैक नहीं था। हमारे मीडिया के कुछ दोस्तों ने इसको बताया कि रेशियल, ऐसा कतई नहीं है।
Meanwhile, calling the recent attack on African nationals as racist, now South African envoy Melos William Mogale said that he has a firm belief in the Indian government to deal with such incidents. Now, Mogale believes the recent incidents of attacks on Africans are racist, but he says that it is not a government policy. He said that the African nationals come to India to help the country in its growth, as some of the migrants come with a set of skills to assist the economy in leap forward. The envoy said that the attacks come as a surprise, especially since the Indo-African relation is in fact decades old. The issue was reportedly raised in private conversation between the two countries' representatives about 2 weeks ago in South Africa. Now, there has been a series of attacks on African nationals in the last few days, including the killing of a Congolese youth in New Delhi and an assault on a 23-year-old Nigerian student in Hyderabad.
कि भारत के अंदर में हमारे नागरिक हों या विदेश से आए लोग हों, सुरक्षा होनी चाहिए और उसके लिए जो कदम उठाने सरकार उस पर तुरंत कार्रवाई शुरू कर देती है।
उनको सहानुभूति तो दूर की बात है, उनके लिए ठोस कदम बताना जिससे कि वो सुरक्षित फील महसूस करें, वो दूर की बात है। तो कम से कम इस प्रकार के ऐसे असंवेदनशील और नासमझी की टिप्पणियां न होनी चाहिए।
निश्चित रूप से कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए, ताकि यह संदेश जाए कि इस प्रकार की अगर गैर कानूनी हरकत कोई करता है, अपने देश के या बाहर के देश के कहीं के भी नागरिक को कानून अपने हाथ में लेकर अगर प्रताड़ित करता है तो सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई देना जरूरी है।
On to other news now. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a rally in Karnataka on Sunday as part of the Vikas Parv celebration to mark 2 years of the NDA. During the rally, he counted the number of initiatives taken by the centre for the benefit of the poor. He also launched the Ujjwal Yojana.
Prime Minister Modi addressed a rally at Devangiri in Karnataka as part of the series of events organised to mark the government's 2 years in power at the centre.
2 साल हुए हैं, मैं 2 काम के लिए आपके पास आया हूं। पहला काम है मेरे काम का आपको हिसाब देना। दूसरा काम है आपसे आशीर्वाद लेना।
At the rally, the Prime Minister attacked those questioning his government's performance. He asserted that the NDA had launched over 700 schemes. He said the rate of development has been the fastest since independence. He took the opportunity to take a jibe at the opposition for questioning his work even when his government was a few weeks into power.
हमारे देश में किसी सरकार को 15 दिन, 20 दिन, 25 दिन, 30 दिन हो जाएं तो लोग सवालिया निशान लगाना शुरू करते हैं।
The Prime Minister said that his government's programs were mostly for the benefit of the poor and farmers, besides ending the role of middlemen, including in jobs. He said that he will not tread a wrong path, even if that means a few jobs remain undone.
एकाध काम कम होगा तो चलेगा, लेकिन गलत रास्ते पर देश को नहीं जाने दूंगा, ये मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाने आया।
On the occasion, the Prime Minister also launched the Ujjwala Yojana scheme to provide cooking gas connections to poor families in Karnataka. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the BJP has announced a list of 12 candidates for the Rajya Sabha elections. Now, those nominated from the party include Union Ministers M. Venkaiah Naidu, Birendra Singh, Nirmala Sitharaman, Piyush Goyal and Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi. Naidu, Singh, Sitharaman, Goyal and Naqvi will be its candidates from Rajasthan, Haryana, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Jharkhand. While others fielded by the party for the biennial elections to the upper house on 11th of June include its vice presidents Om Prakash Mathur, and Purushottam Rupala, who have been nominated from Rajasthan and Gujarat respectively. BJP has picked former State Unit President Gopal Narayan Singh as its nominee from Bihar. Now, there was speculation that former Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Kumar Modi could be its choice for the one seat in the state it can win. Other nominees are Harshvardhan Singh and Ram Kumar Verma from Rajasthan, Anil Madhav Dave from Madhya Pradesh, and Ram Vichar Netam from Chhattisgarh. The 31st May is the last date for filing of nominations. The names of other candidates are expected soon. Those expected to be nominated include Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu, Ram Madhav, Vice President Vinay Seher Sabude, and M.J. Akbar.
अब राज्यसभा के सदस्य हुए हैं तो बिहार के जितनी भी समस्याएं हैं उसको उठाना तो हमारा फर्ज बनता है और बिहार में हम सबसे ज़्यादा मैं पुराने समय से संगठन का काम देखता हूं तो बिहार के जिले हर एक कोने कोने से हम परिचित हैं इसलिए बिहार की भलाई के लिए जितना काम हो सकता है हम राज्यसभा में करेंगे।
मुझे उम्मीद है कि राज्यसभा में हमारा नंबर बढ़ेगा और उससे जो बहुत से महत्वपूर्ण विधेयक हैं या और जिन चीज़ों की ज़रूरत है चाहे वो जीएसटी है या दूसरे हैं उन पे हम उनको पास करवाने में सहायक होगा ये चुनाव।
Meanwhile, as far as the Congress's camp is concerned, now a row has erupted in Uttarakhand over the Congress's decision to nominate Pradeep Tamta as its Rajya Sabha member from the state. The party's ally, the PDF, has now named its own candidate, Dinesh Dhanai, for the election to the upper house. The PDF, that is a crucial ally of the Harish Rawat government, has alleged that the Congress failed to respect the principles of its coalition partners. Now, the support of PDF, a front consisting of 2 BSP MLAs, 1 UKD and 3 independents, had been crucial for Harish Rawat's victory in the floor test, as it took the number of MLAs supporting him from Congress's own 27 to 33. Well, the move has made the Congress nervous, with Harish Rawat returning from its night stay in Paithani to Dehradun. Now, Congress nominee Tamta has said that he does not want to be the reason for any fissures within the coalition. The BJP, on the other hand, has hinted that PDF should not extend further support to the Congress.
हमने एक निवेदन किया था इस समय कि 3 बार राज्यसभा कांग्रेस पार्टी से गए हैं, एक बार पीडीएफ के किसी सदस्य को राज्यसभा भेज दो तो कांग्रेस का भी मान राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर बढ़ता और पीडीएफ का मान भी बढ़ता। लेकिन ऐसा ना करके उन्होंने, मैं समझता हूं कि ये कांग्रेस पार्टी ने अच्छा नहीं किया और ये हमारे राज्यसभा किसी के लिए भी कोई बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं, ना ही वो कोई पॉलिटिकल प्लेटफॉर्म है। लेकिन इतना जरूर था कि एक सम्मान की बात थी, लेकिन कहीं पर भी गठबंधन धर्म का जो सम्मान होता है वो सम्मान नहीं किया और मैं समझता हूं कि ये सम्मान से बढ़कर कोई चीज नहीं है। ये राज्यसभा सीट नहीं बल्कि एक सम्मान का विषय था और कहीं पर भी उन्होंने कोई इतना बड़ापन नहीं दिखाया जिससे कि भविष्य में हम इनका सम्मान कर सके।
या तो हमको पीडीएफ सहयोग दे या हमसे पीडीएफ सहयोग ले ले। सिर्फ ये जो चल रहा है अपना कैंडिडेट उठाने की बात, कैंडिडेट अब बैठना नहीं चाहिए। इस बार पीडीएफ पर जो कांग्रेस के पापों में भागीदार होने का एक आरोप लग रहा था, अपना कैंडिडेट खड़ा करने के कारण वो पाप उनका धुल रहा है।
मैं कभी भी नहीं चाहूँगा ऐसे दौर में जो कांग्रेस तमाम कॉमनवेल्थ फोर्स से हावी हो रही है, नेहरू जो अम्बेडकर की विरासत पर हमला हो रहा है, मेरी ओर से क्या कहते हैं कहीं दिक्कत आए। मैं नहीं चाहूँगा पार्टी कमजोर हो, हमारी सरकार की स्थिरता पर कोई टूटा है तो पार्टी अगर इस संदर्भ में कोई पुनर्विचार भी करना चाहेगी तो उसके लिए मेरी कोई आपत्ति है। मेरे को सिर्फ कांग्रेस हाईकमांड का आशीर्वाद चाहिए, सोनिया जी का आशीर्वाद चाहिए, राहुल जी का आशीर्वाद चाहिए और जो भी वो परिस्थितियों में उचित निर्णय करेंगे मैं पार्टी के साथ हूँ।
That is not all. In fact, another cause of worry for the Congress over Rajya Sabha nominations. Now it's MP Vijay Darda, who failed to get the nomination from Maharashtra, called on senior BJP Minister Nitin Gadkari at his residence in Nagpur on Sunday night. Now, the meeting raised eyebrows in political circles. In a surprise move, the Congress declared former Union Minister P. Chidambaram as the party's nominee to the upper house from Maharashtra. The terms of both Darda and his Rajya Sabha colleague from Congress, Avinash Pandey, also from Nagpur, end on 4th of July. Now, PTI court sources are saying that the Darda-Gadkari meeting lasted for about an hour. Remember, biennial elections to 57 seats in the upper house of parliament will be held on 11th of June. Those out of these 6 are in Maharashtra, with 2 each held by the Congress and NCP and 1 each by the BJP and Shiv Sena. Moving on to some other news now. Seeking to woo investors from Asia's second biggest economy, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley began a 6-day Japan visit on Sunday, meeting Masayoshi Son, CEO of the Japanese telecom giant SoftBank Group. During his visit, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will also call on Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Jaitley said that many investors, including SoftBank, are keen to invest in the infrastructure sector and be part of the Indian growth story. In June last year, SoftBank announced that it was forming a joint venture with the Bharti Enterprises and Taiwan's Foxconn Technology Group to invest about $20 billion in renewable energy in India. The joint venture would aim to generate 20 gigawatts of electricity. On 31st of May, he would participate in the Future of Asia conference, and he will deliver keynote address at the roundtable meet on National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, or the NIIF. The government is looking at attracting investors to the tune of 40,000 crore rupees, which is an investment vehicle for funding commercially viable greenfield, brownfield and stall projects. Government will have 49% holding in NIIF, and the rest will be of private investors. And in Breakfast News, time for a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m.
Welcome back. Now, 6 people have been killed in a cloudburst in Uttarakhand, while rains and landslides have destroyed several homes in the hill state. In the national capital, dust storm and strong winds accompanied with lightning brought down temperatures considerably, but the rains affected flight operations as well. Squalls and dust storms accompanied by light rains lashed the national capital on Sunday evening, bringing the mercury down to 31 degrees Celsius. With humidity oscillating between 43 and 79%, the Met Department has predicted dust storm and thunderstorm along with a squall for Monday as well. As many as 27 flights scheduled for arrival at the Indira Gandhi International Airport were diverted to other nearby airports such as Lucknow and Jaipur. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's flight was also diverted to Jaipur after it could not land in the national capital due to bad weather. In an early meeting between the airlines and the Civil Aviation Ministry, the former sought the ministry's help to have a system at the major airports which could inform them about weather conditions well in advance. The system would help in minimizing disruption to flight schedules.
मौसम खराब की वजह से फ्लाइट डिले इन्होंने डाइवर्ट कर दी अहमदाबाद में. अभी तक वहां से कोई पता नहीं है कब आएगी कब नहीं आएगी. कोई इनकी तरफ से इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं आ रही हमें.
मौसम खराब हो गया तो कई फ्लाइटें डाइवर्ट हुई होंगी, तो जैसे आगे वाली फ्लाइट डाइवर्ट हुई तो पीछे वाली भी डाइवर्ट हो जाती, मतलब टाइम उसका शेड्यूल हो जाता.
Meanwhile, in Uttarakhand's Tehri district, heavy rains damaged at least 30 houses and killed several cattle. 6 people have also been reported dead in the rains, which triggered landslides and blocked highways leading to Kedarnath and Yamunotri. About 75 millimeters of rainfall is said to have lashed Ghansali within 2 hours on Saturday evening. The intensity of rain and thunderstorm is also likely to increase in the coming days. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. More news from the national capital. Well, the CPIM Politburo began its 2-day meeting in the national capital on Sunday. Now, the purpose of the meeting was to analyze and review the outcome of the assembly elections in West Bengal and Kerala. While the party is upbeat with its performance in Kerala, its electoral disaster in West Bengal is a major cause of concern for the leadership. The Politburo members thoroughly discussed the party's debacle in West Bengal and the steps to regain the lost ground in the state. Now, some leaders also expressed displeasure on the party's decision to join hands with the Congress in the state of West Bengal. The meeting was attended by Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, Tripura Chief Minister Manik Sarkar, former General Secretary Prakash Karat, apart from other Politburo members. News from Puducherry, and former IPS officer Kiran Bedi took oath as the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry on Sunday. She was administered the oath of office by Chief Justice of Madras High Court Sanjay Kishan Kaul. Bedi is the 24th Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry. Now, soon after taking oath, a delighted Bedi said that she is looking at a prosperous Puducherry growing in every respect.
So for me today, this new responsibility, friends, is a form of worship. To serve the most beautiful part of India, I'm here to give it all I have. All I have, all the energy I have, I'm here to give it. We all visualize a prosperous Puducherry. That's my mantra, prosperous Puducherry.
Well, after the Lieutenant Governor, the Union Territory is also now set to get a new Chief Minister. Well, Narayansamy, the Chief Minister designate of the Congress Party, is all geared up to take up the post. He met alliance partner DMK Chief M. Karunanidhi on Sunday and obtained his party's lead letter of support for forming the government in the Union Territory. The Congress DMK combined garnered 17 seats in the 30-member assembly in the recently concluded 5 state elections. Now to some other news. Well, after the successful launch of high-speed Gatiman Express, the railways on Sunday conducted the much-awaited trials of the Spanish Talgo train between Bareilly and Moradabad in Uttar Pradesh as a part of its strategy to increase the speed of the trains. Now, the 9 coaches of the train ran from Bareilly at 8:50 a.m. at a speed ranging between 80 to 115 kilometers per hour, hauled by a 4,500 HP diesel engine. The first trial was from Bareilly to Moradabad. The second phase will be between Mathura and Palwal, and the third phase will be between Delhi and Mumbai. The speed for the 2 routes is targeted to be kept at 180 km per hour and 220 km per hour respectively. The trial run will continue for 2 weeks, and after that it will be tried on Rajdhani route between Mathura and Palwal for 40 days with speed up to 180 km per hour. Now let's get you some international news. And 3 days and 3 sunken ships are again confronting Europe with the horrors of its refugee crisis as desperate people are trying to reach the continent and they keep dying at sea. At least 700 migrants fear to have died from shipwreck in the Mediterranean Sea in the past 1 week. The latest drownings have pushed the migrant death toll for this year to more than 2,000 people. It is springtime. Beautiful weather, but also one that witnesses a surge in the number of people attempting the perilous crossing from Africa to Europe. As a result, a surge in migrants' accidents at sea. Up to 700 migrants are feared drowned in a series of shipwrecks off the coast of Libya in the last few days. Most of the victims were on 3 ill-fated boats. The boat sank south of Italy on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday as the migrants tried to reach Europe in unseaworthy vessels. It is now a key migration route since closing the Greek route has shifted attention to the longer, more dangerous sea route from Libya to Italy.
The Italian Navy has been doing a fantastic job. They have rescued about 14,000 people so far this week, but unfortunately there have been a number of incidents where people have lost their lives. And in 3 separate shipwrecks, we estimate that 700 people might have died or are still missing and unaccounted for.
But the situation could have been much worse. More than 13,000 migrants were rescued from the Mediterranean in the past week. Medicines Sans Frontiers deployed 2 search and rescue boats, Dignity 1 and Argus, in the Mediterranean. The Argus boat arrived in the Italian port of Trapani on Sunday. The rescues were the latest by a multinational patrol of ships operating in the Mediterranean.
So far, 200,000 people have crossed the Mediterranean this year. And in the case of Italy, some 40,000 have arrived since the beginning of the year. And before this latest tragedies. About 1,700 had already been reported dead or missing.
Despite the dangers, the flood of migrants probably won't stop anytime soon. In just the first 5 months of this year, close to 2 lakh migrants have fled to Europe. That is double the number of migrants who fled in the first 5 months of 2015. And even if they do survive the dangerous journey to Europe, many migrants face uncertain futures. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some sporting action now. In world number 2, Andy Murray and defending champion Stan Wawrinka reached the French Open quarterfinals on Sunday as Richard Gasquet kept alive hopes of a first home triumph in 33 years by knocking out Japan's Kei Nishikori. Meanwhile, Indian tennis ace Sania Mirza and her doubles partner Martina Hingis crashed out to end their slam dreams at Roland Garros.
After 2 rounds of drama-filled 5-setters, Andy Murray settled in and found his form in Paris, beating American John Isner in straight sets to reach the quarterfinals of the French Open. The world number 2 saved 3 set points in a 16-minute first set tie break and was leading 7-1, 2-1 when the play was stopped because of rain. Murray outclassed 15 seed Isner after the break to seal a 7-6, 6-4, 6-3 win in 2 hours and 40 minutes. The Scot faces France's 9th seed Richard Gasquet, the last French player standing in the last 8. Gasquet outplayed 5th seed Kei Nishikori 6-4, 6-2, 4-6, 6-2 to reach the quarterfinals for the first time. The 9th seed had trailed Nishikori 2-4 early in the first set, but after an hour-long rain delay, he won 9 of the next 10 games to turn the match on its head. Meanwhile, defending champion Stan Wawrinka overcame a second-set blip against Viktor Troicki to book his place in the quarterfinals. Wawrinka prevailed 7-6, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2, securing the final 2 sets with relative ease. The 3rd seed will now play world number 55, Albert Ramos Vinolas, who shocked the big serving Canadian 8th seed Milos Raonic with a straight 6-2, 6-4, 6-4 win. In the men's doubles, Leander Paes and Rohan Bopanna entered the French Open men's doubles quarterfinals with their respective partners. The 6th seed Indo-Romanian pair Bopanna and Florin Mergia defeated Marcus Daniel and Brian Baker 6-2, 6-7, 6-1, while 16th seed Pace and Marcin Matkowski stunned 4th seed combination of Bruno Soros and Jamie Murray 7-6, 7-6. Meanwhile, in the women's doubles, number 1 team of Martina Hingis and Sania Mirza were knocked out of the French Open, losing 6-3, 6-2 to Barbora Krejcikova and Katerina Siniakova. In another match of the day, number 4 seed Garbin Muguruza blazed into quarterfinals for the 3rd straight year, defeating former champion Svetlana Kuznetsova 6-3, 6-4 in 1 hour and 38 minutes. Muguruza needed 5 match points to defeat Kuznetsova, who she lost on to clay in Madrid last year in their only career meeting. The 22-year-old Venezuelan-born 4th seed will next play Shelby Rogers of the United States. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's all in this, the news bulletin. Thanks for watching.